right, we back with another episode of the Fuel of Crutch podcast. Let's talk about it. Today is a episode that has kind of been weighing on me for a little while. It's just going to deal with leaving. I know people have talked about it all the time about leaving Madison, leaving Wisconsin, or leaving wherever your hometown is. But unfortunately, not a lot of people do it, although they say it. But I wanted to just get some people on the podcast today that have done it and have a conversation around what it's been like, what got them to that process. And so let's go. I got Damiana and BK coming on. BK, Dami, please. Thank y'all for joining the podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, ladies first, as always.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Dami Lee. That was supposed to be long. That's all I got.
No, that's cool. I'll ask more questions that'll be, to help people see where y'all at and everything like that.
All right.
Good. Well, I'm Brian Kennedy from Madison. Went to a bunch of schools out there. Left Madison right after high school. Moved back for a little bit and then left again. So, so that's, yeah, that's pretty much who I am. I mean, I got a lot of other things going on, but I'm sure we get into that as we continue.
Definitely will. All right, cool. So, please tell me, Damiana, you going first. How long were you in Madison before you got up out of here?
Yeah. So I was born in Madison. I did move around a little bit prior to permanently leaving. I lived in Chicago for a few years as a child. I also ventured out and I moved to Minneapolis, St. Paul for a brief time around 18-ish. I'm 30 now, just to give you a little bit of perspective. Um, and then ultimately, I made my move permanently to where I'm currently at, which is Cincinnati, Ohio, in 2021. So pretty much most of my life, up until 2021, permanently.
Okay. Brian, please do the same yourself because I know you didn't start off here as well, although you did
No.
live here, and we've got the Southside ties.
So I moved to Madison from Gary, Indiana when I was about 7. My mom wanted us to have, not end up in jail or dead or selling drugs or anything. So she took us to Wisconsin. I stayed there until I was 18. Originally moved to New York. I left New York, moved down here to North Carolina for a bit. I moved back to Illinois, Nebraska, Texas, uh, lived in Pennsylvania. Lived in Pennsylvania for about 7, 8 years. Moved back home to Wisconsin for about 6, 7 years. Then moved to Colorado. I lived in Denver for about 6 or 7 years. And now I just moved to North Carolina again. I'm in Charlotte now. So I've moved around. I've lived a few places, I'll tell you that.
So basically, you telling me you got about 6 to 7 years in Charlotte.
That's funny you say that. Me and my wife was talking about that. I was like, well, we definitely give it 6 to 7 years because after that, I'm ready to move anyway. So, I'll probably say probably in about 10
like
years.
You got a theme going.
I mean, I think with going to college and moving around, you learn about different places in the country and you want to try them out and see what they're about.
No, that's a great question or a segue because I wanted to talk. So you left, and when you left, it wasn't necessarily that you were leaving because it was just time to move away. You left for what first? I'm assuming school first, right?
You talking Dami or me?
You.
I got a scholarship to the University of Buffalo. I wanted to go to school for to be a major in business, and I think at the time SUNY Buffalo was like top 5 business schools in the country, so that's where I ended up going.
So, do you think that leaving to go off to school made it easier for you to leave and move around just as you got older in your adult life?
Well, I say, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. I was Bo Ryan first recruit to the Badgers, so I could have played in Wisconsin if I felt like it. Um, I felt that I had dealt with so much in Wisconsin, and I had dealt with so many issues in Wisconsin that it was a lot of things I felt I couldn't control, and I was just not going to submit myself to that type of scrutiny, that type of issues, those type of pressures again. So I had to leave, and being away from home, one thing, my family is very supportive, so it was kind of easy to go. But being away from home definitely led to me being able to leave when I got older.
All right, now Dami, when you left, what was kind of like the final straw when you made that decision? Like, all right, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had always kind of known or felt like there was more for me in this world than Wisconsin, Madison particularly. I had tried many times to get out of there. Actually, I forgot to mention I did briefly live in Atlanta as well. That was in like 2018. It was so short I spaced. But I think with me, I had just given birth to my son, so I have two children. I have Harlem and Elio, and part of it was co-parenting because my son's family lives here. The other part of it was just I knew I had hit my ceiling. Um, I had
Mm-hmm.
experienced everything. I had been everywhere. I didn't feel like as far as like my career goes, there was any movement there. Like it was just a space where I was like, you know what? It's time. I just got to rip the band-aid off and I'm just going to go for it. So I decided in January of what was it, 2021 I was going to move, and in August of 2021 I was out of there. So,
So, question for both of y'all. We can start, of course, with you, Dami. So like, what was that? What was it? First, was it hard to leave?
um I don't think it's ever really been hard for me to leave because I've tried it before. I think that the planning portion in lining everything up was a little bit hard because prior to my big move, which is what I call my move in 2021 to here, I had moved before, but it wasn't thought out. It was more so just kind of sporadic. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go pack up my suitcases and get out of there. This time, having my kids, um, just having a life already established, being a little bit older and understanding kind of what comes with that, what all has to happen. That part was a little hard, like trying to find somewhere to live, you know what I mean? Trying to make sure everything lined up for school, health insurance, like stuff that people don't think about when they look at that, or like the school district. How is that going to play into part with my kids, the neighborhoods, the areas, like getting acclimated to the areas, like the stuff that it takes to kind of get you to that point. That part was definitely a little bit difficult for me.
Well, I could see that.
Brian, what about you?
Well, that's off what she said. I could definitely see if you got kids, it makes it hard to lead. I have never had that problem. I'm a non-reproducer. I don't feel that making babies is my thing, or my calling. So for me, it's never really been hard. Like, I mean, you if you know me, you might just see me standing behind you somewhere one day in Madison because I move around. I don't. I've always been kind of an up and go person, so especially with playing ball and traveling a lot, it made it really easy to just go somewhere, try something new, do something different. So for me, I think actually my hardest move was from coming from Denver to Charlotte. That was that one I had because before, like she said, I could pack up a suitcase and I could go, not a problem. But now, I got a wife, we got a house, we got stuff we got to get transferred. We got to get transferred. My job is also remote, so I can live anywhere I feel like and work. But she has to be on her site or where she's at, and so that made it kind of like, well, we need to plan. But actually, to be honest with you, she didn't really even plan for us to move down here. She just came home and said, "Hey, I quit my job. Let's move." Okay, so like I never really had to do a lot of extra to go to get somewhere new.
No, that's fair. So once you got to y'all's location where everybody will consider their current move or big move, like what was that planning process? Brian, you can answer a second because I know your planning process was going to be different, but
Yeah,
you still had to
definitely.
plan something. But now, I mean, you share first.
Um, Planning process. Well, I think it started with my job. The first part of it was, okay, where am I going to work? Because when I lived in Wisconsin, I was working for Dean Health Plan, St. Mary's, and they don't have any this way. So it was like, what am I going to do? Funny enough, I currently work for Fidelity Investments. I got recruited for my job while I was looking for jobs because I was doing all these interviews here and I was having no luck. And this went on, I would say, through like June. So, like, right before I moved. So, trying to find somewhere to work. Then from there, where am I going to live? What's the location like? Okay, at that point, what do I need to do to transfer my daughter? Because at that time, my son was an infant. Daycare. I had to figure that part out. I had to figure out, who my support system was going to be because that was another big thing too is I left my support system. So
Hmm.
just planning basically everything and how my life was gonna transition.
Nice. That's interesting. I actually almost worked for Fidelity like 2 years ago.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, yeah. There was a job that I was interested in when I was in Colorado, and fortunately, it didn't work out because I worked for the company I work for now, and I love my company. So that was cool. But one thing also you touched on too that I will tell people: if you're looking for jobs in other places and you know somebody there, use their address. That'll get you an interview faster because a lot of companies look at it like, oh, you don't even live here, so you're just trying to use us to jump here. What if you don't like the job? You just go leave. It gives companies a little more flexibility and a little more confidence that you go stick around with that job. So if you know somebody where you're trying to go, use their address. It definitely works. But
Man,
I would say,
I have super appreciate that because that makes so much sense about
yeah,
using somebody's address so it may appear that you're there just to get them to actually
right.
take a look at your application and resume.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference for companies, but um, for for me, my story's a little different. So I'm gonna tell you how it went because this shit was crazy. So it was a Friday, and like my girl had called me earlier in the day, and she was frustrated with the way things going, and she was just like, "Hey, yeah, I think I'm gonna quit my job." And when people say that, you don't really take them serious. So I was like, whatever. The weekend went by and she went to work on Monday. And she called me and was like, I think we should fly out to Charlotte. I want to check out North Carolina this weekend. And I was like, all right. And she was like, because I mean, I only got 2 weeks left, so we need to plan something. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, I mean, I told you I quit. I thought she was just talking. so, so, so she quit. And so we had planned a trip to come to Charlotte because we were actually went to Wisconsin that weekend. And so when she came back, she was like, "Let's go to Charlotte." So I planned. So we had planned to come to Charlotte, but by Wednesday, her company called her, knew we was moving to North Carolina, and told her they had a job for her in North Carolina, in Charlotte. So we flew out. When we flew out here Friday, we checked out the job. They checked out where she where to be at. Everything worked out, and we left in 30 days and moved out here. So that was challenging. Yeah, it was for me. Like I said, I've always been this flexible type of person to be able to move around and do what I wanted to. So that's never been a major issue for me. And I know that's something that a lot of people may face, so they don't really live like that. But that's something I've always kind of when I was younger, I always wanted to plan my life. So that if I ever felt like I wanted to up and move and go somewhere new, I just up and move and go somewhere new.
Well, talk about one. You had a quick turnaround, but for both of y'all, just talk about the expenses. Like because I don't know if people really
Woo.
gauge like
Okay.
how expensive moving can be or it will be.
It's
Yeah.
expensive,
Yes. Yes.
especially if you're moving across country. Like, let's
Yes.
get started on that. Like, I had to move everything because obviously I had a bunch of stuff like my furniture, everything. So you got to pay for the moving expenses, the U-Haul, when you're the rent, you move into a new place or whatever it is. If you're buying a house, those expenses, the housing. You got to make sure that you're good. Like, I know for me, I didn't start my job right away, so I had to make sure I had enough money to sustain, you know what I mean, until I was able to start my job. um it's costly. It's costly. You're looking at some thousands of dollars, so just be prepared.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Thousands.
I
Thousands.
can touch on that. She is not lying. Like, like, so here's my suggestion on being able to move um at a less expensive price. At less expensive price. One, don't hire movers. Like, just be honest. They're gonna tell you like, oh yeah, we're looking at your stuff. You give them a quote of what you got. It's gonna be like, oh, $7,000. When you done, it's 15,000, 20,000 cash. They
Literally.
won't tell you how much it costs until you get like in the process of doing it, and then your stuff may not arrive for like up to 30 days because of the way they go about it and shipment. So the best bet if you're trying to move is get you a U-Haul or a truck. Find if you don't feel comfortable driving, get somebody who you know driving, pay them directly, and have them drive your stuff. It's gonna save you a ton of money, save you a ton of time. It's not gonna be as expensive as trying to get movers, but it is expensive to move across the country. And she's not lying; it is thousands. So you gotta have so probably so let's look at it. You gotta get out of wherever you at. So let's say you rent. You probably got to pay for you got your deposit, which hopefully will cover anything you do for the house. That where you at, like then you got to pay for all the boxes, all the things you go get stacked up and get going. You got to get a truck. You got to pay for all the gas, the moving, all of that stuff. Then when you get to first month of rent, whatever it is for your move-in costs, all of that stuff. And then before you get set up, there's going to be certain things you do need while you're there that you may not even have access to right away. So you go make sure you have some extra money that for stuff like that until you can get set up and cooking regularly and stuff. So you're gonna be eating out right for a little bit. And then you know you got to get established. And like she said, you may not start working somewhere for like 2 weeks or and so that means you may not get a paycheck for a month. So you definitely want to plan ahead that you go move and you got this stuff
There's fees like
set up so you can go somewhere and you know get on.
yep, there's a lot of fees. You gotta transfer your car, or if you gotta,
Oh man.
like license fees to like, because you have, I think it's a certain amount of time to
Damn,
transfer
forgot
your
about that.
license and stuff into states. Yep. Another thing I suggest too, I was looking into this. If you aren't comfortable or say you don't have a lot of help, unless you plan on just basically chucking all your stuff and starting from scratch, the alternative to having a moving truck is, I know they do have things like pods. Um,
Hmm.
they're called like U boxes through U-Haul, where you can pack all your stuff up and just ship it to your location. Like, say if it's a destination where you can't, just drive there. Like if you're moving to California, you don't want to drive all the way across the country. And you want to fly, then that's an alternative. It is a little bit more expensive. You're going to spend a little bit more money, but it is cheaper than the movers.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
keep that in mind.
Yes.
But yeah,
Movers to get you.
unless you're not taking nothing with you at all, but you're still gonna need some money, because when you get there, you got to establish yourself. So
Yeah. Now and that's true. If you don't got like sentimental stuff and you trying to get movers, you if you moving to like from Wisconsin, California, you might as well buy new stuff. Like
period.
for real. Nah, I'm serious, man. I sold
It's expensive.
like before I moved, I sold 2 levels of my house, all in garage sales, just giving away stuff, just trying to get rid of it because you can't take it with you. Because if you try to take it, yeah, you could have bought all that stuff brand new again. For real, like it's expensive. Like they charge you. So there's a lot of things that you don't want. And then, like you said, also, I just got my license, my car registered here, and I had to change my insurance because they don't let you get insurance here unless unless they don't let you get your license here unless you got insurance and stuff. So you got to pay for the insurance. When you transfer your license, they charge you that first year. It's gonna be more expensive than it would normally. So it's like you go that first year, you paying for the transfer fees and all that. So it's gonna be a little more expensive. And then it gets back to normal after the first year. But when you transferring, that is actually a big deal on registering a car. Like I'll be honest with you, when I went to Denver, because Denver is Colorado is the fourth most expensive state in the country. It's like living in San Francisco. When I went to Colorado, my insurance went from I think I was paying like $115, $120, $120,000 in Madison. I had a I had a Lexus 450H, like the RX type version. Um, when I went to Colorado, that shit was 350. So that part was already expensive. So what I did was I didn't even change my stuff from Wisconsin. My ID was in Wisconsin. They wouldn't let me keep my insurance in Wisconsin, but Wisconsin and Denver, a lot of people go back and forth, so I had to pay that. But I kept a lot of stuff in Wisconsin until I knew I was going to be somewhere permanently. So I actually never even got registered in Denver. Let in Colorado. I had addresses in there, but because so many people travel to Denver, the police out there don't really mess with you about how long it takes to get stuff transferred over because so many people from out of town. When you come to a place like this, you may get pulled over for it because it's not as many people like it is in Colorado. So that's coming back and forth. They ain't checking everybody. So here, I had to get everything transferred over. It does cost some money. Like,
And yeah, piggyback off of that, I know here. So where I'm at, I'm actually technically in Kentucky because if you know, part of Cincinnati is actually is northern Kentucky because the Ohio River runs right through there. Well, on the Kentucky side, what they don't tell you is your registration is a percentage of your car's value.
yeah,
So if you got like a $100,000 car, your registration is going to be thousands of dollars just to register your car.
yes,
Like $100, like
Wow.
how it is in
yeah. In
expensive.
Colorado, I think my car, the register was like 1,200. Like, don't get it twisted. You paying some money like to get stuff registered when you go to these places, especially if it's more expensive than the place. And she right, it does go by weight and percentage of how much your car value is. So if you got a bigger vehicle, you paying more.
So just
I
expect some.
listen, all this stuff is great. All this is great information. So people, y'all need to make sure when you planning on moving and you decide to leave, that you do the research for where you're going, because those fees may be even more than just what you're hearing right here on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah. And then, depending on if you move into a major city, you may have, if you live in Madison, you don't got emission tests. You live in Milwaukee, you do. But if
You
you go
got,
to a major city, you got emission tests.
yep, exactly.
So,
I hear they don't have those. But there was another thing too that crossed my mind that I also wanted to talk about as far as expenses that I think people don't realize. So one thing I noticed because I am a mom, when I lived in Wisconsin, I made a decent amount of money. Like technically I was over the amount or over the limit for certain benefits, like state benefits. I did get daycare assistance. When I moved here, it was a huge culture shock. And I realized that the amount of support, like the income limits for like daycare assistance, food share, health insurance, is completely different versus Wisconsin. And I think honestly, the reason being is because this is a bigger city. And obviously, with a larger city, the poverty level or the limit that you have to be at in order to qualify for those benefits is lower. Whereas in Madison, they don't have that big of a population. So it's a little bit higher based on the people that are in this like actual like area. So coming here and being there and being able to qualify for daycare assistance when I was making the same amount of money that I started out making here was crazy because I came here and all of the help that I had gotten financially for daycare was cut. So ever since I've lived here, I've paid daycare
Mm.
fully out of pocket myself. So
yeah,
that's another thing to expect. I've noticed is daycare is actually, Wisconsin is actually very cushy when it comes to benefits. It's extremely cushy. It's extremely easy to get help in Wisconsin. Here, you are on your own.
yeah,
So be ready for that. If you're gonna go and you are somebody who's receiving those, benefits or receiving assistance, whether it's daycare, healthcare, be ready to be in for a shock when you leave.
yeah. And just to touch on that too, because I know people move to the South where that you're not getting that, you're not getting those extra support. It's a lot more community based. And that's what I was saying, church driven to you earlier. Like a lot of the community does help out and stuff. Like you'll find one street over by my Airbnb is where it's just like um daycare, all up and down the street. But um she is right. Like, and that was something I think I was telling you about before was how Madison does trap you. Madison gives you that support and gives you that help, and it never really pushes you to do it on your own. It's like
I
you
agree.
can do it
Oh,
on your own, and if you start doing it on your own, you go push to get more and get better, and you probably got better opportunities. But since Madison gives you that support, they don't necessarily got to give you those opportunities.
You get
That's
comfortable.
one thing I learned.
It's very comfortable, and it was a change to have to go somewhere else because everything else was fine. I really didn't need that much help, but the daycare is costly. I'm a single mom. Daycare for anybody is expensive. I don't care who you
Mhm.
are, how much money
Yes.
you have. Thousands of dollars a month is ridiculous, but coming here and being like, wow, they telling me I make way more money. I'm like I think the limit was like you have to make like 11, $10 an hour just to get daycare assistance here, which is crazy. So I came here and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And I struggled for a while. Like in the very beginning, it was rough. Like I almost came home a few times because financially it was tough. It's tough out.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I've heard that from a couple of people. It's definitely tough with kids, like because
mhm.
that support ain't the same as it is in Wisconsin. They feeding you in Wisconsin, keeping you good, and in a
Okay.
system. That's what, yeah. But when you go other places, you gonna have to learn some things that you learned that you got to unlearn some things you learned in Wisconsin.
You just have to learn how to figure it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
You just got to learn how to utilize.
But Dami,
Use
you hit on something that I
it.
want. You hit on something that I wanted to kind of go deeper on. You talked about the culture. Talk about let's. I want all of us to just or y'all to just talk about the culture because you guys are all in cities with a higher population of black people. I want y'all to talk about the culture, good, bad, or indifferent, and your thoughts and feelings about it. We do got another guest coming on. Homegirl, Sugar, what's going on?
Hey,
But she just faded to black. But go ahead, Dami.
I didn't think what I do.
Yes, y'all don't know that's my cousin. Uh,
Y'all can
No,
hear
you
me.
good. You
Yeah, you
we in
good.
there.
Oh, okay, okay.
um,
Yeah, we can hear you.
culture. So
Sugar, we'll
I
get to you. I just asked the question about the culture. Go ahead.
okay. So I actually talk about this a lot with people. When I first moved here, because Cincinnati does have a way larger population of black people than Madison by far. And it's not just the population being larger, it's the type of black people. And I know that people are like, what does that even mean? But when I first moved here, I felt like I had imposter syndrome. And I talk about that all the time. I felt like I had been immersed all of a sudden into a population of black people who were super cultured. Like they enjoyed going to like art exhibits and like going out to jazz lounges, and they were HBCU graduates, and they were in sororities and fraternities, and everybody's getting married, and it's just like a whole different side of the
Oh,
black experience that I was not used to, because that's not the experience that I had in Madison. And at first,
yes.
I felt like I didn't fit in, and almost like I was too ghetto, or like I was just not as polished. And I know that that sounds weird or crazy, but that's how I felt. Like I wasn't polished, and like I didn't fit, and I struggled. Like when we would talk, or they would crack jokes, I felt like my sense of humor was different. Like just the conversations, and it took a while for me to adjust and realize I absolutely do fit in. It was just different, and it was something that I had to learn how to get accustomed to. Not to say that Madison doesn't have that, because Madison absolutely has groups of like black professionals, people who are well rounded, but I felt like it was a way bigger population of that moving and having those experiences where I could go out to a bar and it be a black owned lounge, and it's they're playing music and they're singing and everybody's just enjoying themselves, and we're having like professional conversation, and it's just a different energy and atmosphere. So that's
Yes.
something that I will speak to. Like I definitely feel like culturally there is a big difference when it comes to the black community moving out of state.
Yes. Look, she hit on a lot of reasons why I had to leave Mass. She hit on a lot. There is okay. I'll give you an example of how different the culture is. Like one is 35% black here, 39% white, so it's almost 50-50. Two, I went to this, and this is a difference right here. I went to a Cat Williams concert a couple months back. Right, took my wife there for her birthday. Um, at the concert, there was a comedian got up there, and she was making jokes about like, oh, for all the single people, blah blah this, and let me get a hand for all the single people, and it was crickets. Like the only people that was clapping, and no offense to you ladies, but it was only the single ladies. When she said single dudes, you could hear a pin drop in there. Everybody married, everybody in relationships. The whole stadium was quiet. That's the difference in just culture of how things are overall from here to there. But she also touched on another thing too, is the amount of black professionals is completely different than it was in other places. Like you actually meet a lot more black people who are doing things like, and one of the things that I never really liked about Madison was the lack of black professionalism. Like, okay, you say she had a culture shock, like obviously you fit in and stuff, but and if you get trapped in that Midwest area, you don't leave there. There is a way of thinking in different parts of the country. And if you've never really experienced them, you don't actually understand what's going on when you go people. Some people got different words. Like you go to Pittsburgh, they got like Pittsburghese. It's like a whole different way of talking that they go by. And these and I mean you hear New York, they say they they talk differently too. Everything mad crazy. So it's these different words that are used in different places that represent kind of the area you in, and people act differently. And now one thing I hate about Madison is I feel like that area, the Midwest, is pushing a thug mentality, is pushing a ghetto way of living. It's like this is how you're supposed to be to represent that you black. And when you go to other places, that shit don't really fly. Like people like, you're not really my speed. They don't keep up with you. They like, I'm gonna leave you alone. It's a real different in the way people want to be approached and the way people talk. Here, everybody, ma'am and sir. I'm in the South, but it's also the way you conduct yourself about things here. It's just a little different. Like it's just not the same. Like you go out to clubs, right? Let's say you're in Madison, right? And stuff get a little late. You're like, I might get out of here because I'm not trying to get no BS. It's a black club. But here, might not even be the deal. It's not the same. It's not the same type of situation. It's people they want to go home safe. They got kids. They want to raise stuff. They trying to build businesses. And I was telling you that earlier, like if you're a business owner and you like in the Midwest, your population of black people who go come in your business is what, 6%? Here, half the city black. You go grow faster than you would there. You gonna get more
Right.
support. Even white people go
Right.
come into your business because you looking at they 50% of the population, and it's not the same. When I got here, and I've been a lot of places, but coming here, it was a lot of like you go into restaurants, black table, white table, black table, white table. It's like it's integrated. It's not like I was telling you before how Madison is segregated, completely different. So I agree. The culture definitely will change you and wake you up to some things that you may not even notice about yourself that you were doing that was a part of the culture you were in when you get there. And then slowly you'll find yourself like when I go back to Madison, there's certain things I'll be like, I can't deal with that. I'm out of here. So
You
that's just me. But
evolve.
I'm like that though.
Yeah, you evolve.
So we got one more person that we're gonna have share. But Sugar, you got to give us a little background. Let us know where you from, where you moved around to, and then currently where you located, and when did you relocate?
Okay, all right. Well, I'm Sugar. I was born and raised in Chicago, grew up in Madison, specifically South Side. I have lived some of everywhere, but in my stint in Madison, I graduated from Memorial. Um, and I guess I started moving around right away because I went to college away, came back and then went away. But I've been back to Madison, I guess I would say twice. So I went away to college in Kentucky, came back, and then found myself with child. So went through that process. So now here I am, 19 and a mom. Um, then I decided to go ahead and persevere through that and earn a degree from what's now Madison College. It was MAPC back then. And then after that, I decided that me and my daughter we were going to move to Atlanta. So this was 2005. Um, and we headed on down to Georgia, me, her, and her two little hamsters. And yep, Nene and Riri. That's their names. They're named after our twin cousins. But yep, we did. We went to Atlanta, and that was cool. And then again, I found myself living life and being grown and with child again. Fast forward to after birth, I moved back to Madison because things weren't working out, in that situation. And I had a goal that I wanted to get my degree. And the reality was that it was a big goal because no one in my family had gotten a degree. And so even though I now have these babies, now I have two, I still want this degree over anything. So I go back where I can get some more support with my daughters. And then I attended the University of Wisconsin. That started in 2009, so spring 2009. So here I am, a non-traditional student at the university. And, I go through that whole process. I ended up pledging Zeta Xi, so Delta, at UW-Madison with my two babies at 27. And that was different because, one, we talk about Black culture in Madison, I didn't even know anything about alumni. I just knew that when I lived with my aunt in Memphis for a little stint, that she was a Delta and that her daughter became a Delta. And so in the back of my head, this is something that I wanted, right? But I didn't know anything about it. So after I had my first daughter, after going to college, I thought that was a dream deferred. Like, who can do it? Like, you don't know because there's no culture about this where you're from, right? You're not growing up in D9 and, you don't have this example. So there wasn't for me. So I got back to Madison, got in school January, and ended up going through that process of becoming a member to Delta Sigma Theta at the same time. So not even in Madison 3 weeks or a month before all this starts to pop off. But anyway, I persevered through that. I ended up earning my degree in 2011. So now I'm back 2009. 2011 is when I earned my degree. I ended up marrying or having my wedding on the same day that I graduated from UW-Madison, making me the first in my family to earn a bachelor's degree as well as get married. And then following that, it was my second child's father that I married. So we, went through our marriage process. The marriage ended up, dissolving in about 2015, 2016. It became final. 2017, I found myself in Dallas, Texas. And that is where I currently reside.
Damn, it's been that long?
It has.
Real fast.
Going on 7 years, yes. And I will say this. Madison became, to me, what looked like to me a place of complacency, right? It's a place where you're there, and because there's so much support, you don't know what to do. Should you have to, if you lose what you feel like that safety net might be, right? One of the biggest things I always say to anybody that asks me, go, because guess what you can always do? Come back, regroup, and try again. You can always come back. There's no rule saying once you leave, you can't come back if that's what you need to do, but you can go again. I knew why I came back to Madison that second time from Atlanta. Even when I was married, the plan was to relocate back in and out because I met him in Atlanta. So I knew why I needed to come home, but I knew I had no intentions of staying because I had already got a taste of Black principals, Black teachers, Black kids and play dates, the black. That's what I need in my life.
Yep.
And for anybody that knows me, even to a degree, I don't take a lot, but when it comes to my kids, I would have been in jail in that school system when it came to mine. Cause no, you weren't going to make them feel less than. You weren't going to label them. You weren't going to group them. You weren't going to do any of the things. My middle daughter, who is now a senior, I put her in all the sports, like in Fitchburg and all things. I was one of the parents actually doing something with their kid, right? But so she's the only little token Black child, and so all the kids go to elementary school in Fitchburg. So they showing up to basketball practice with their little shirts tied up on the side and only passing the ball to each other, and my baby feeling left out, right? I remember seeing that for her, and even though me trying to get her into, extracurriculars, not seeing girls that look like her was a barrier, right? She would always not be as good as because she didn't match, even if their talent was sucky, right? They gonna still band and stick together. And here she is standing alone. So these were other examples where I know I got to get my baby from up out of here because they
I
got
tell she
gifts, they
played with
got
me.
talents. We still got that jersey upstairs too. Look.
Exactly.
But but still, and even in that, right? We have these smaller, and I say this with everything in me. There's not enough collaboration amongst the Black community in Madison. It's too much. I want to do this. I never gate kept anything. You ask me a question, I'm gonna give it to you. You know why? Because what's for me gonna always be for me. And I can give you the finish line, but my process is mine, right? You got to get your. I can give you the finish line. That ain't for me to keep. But the process, that's mine, and my process is something that you can't emulate because you're not me. So that's why I never is like, oh, where did you get that? Over here? Where you order over there? Like, I'm gonna give it to you because what do I gain from? What else do I gain from it? But there's a lot of that. Like, so even with like the different teams, nobody wanted to come together. It's cool to have multiple, but sometimes you got to do an assessment of what's really going on and what capacity you can actually reach. And nobody's reaching the full potential because don't nobody want to come together to make it reach and then expand. You got to grow the foundation first. And the foundation is so many different stems in that root, it's not solid. So that's, that's a big issue, but I had to get my babies up out of there. I knew that there was better. I had seen better. I experienced better. And I knew it was time for me to make that exit again. So I left 2017. And I've been in Dallas, Texas ever since. I absolutely love it here in Dallas. I have access to any and everything. For the most
talk
part,
about the culture of Dallas, because I love Dallas too.
Okay, Dallas is. Listen, Dallas is a vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have my, little pods and circles and things like that I tap into. But for the most part, I'm fluid. So I go, somewhere I go to the cigar lounge, I go to the hookah lounges. And mostly everywhere I go, 90% of the places that I go end up being Black owned or, ran by a minority, women owned, this, that, and the third. We have wine bars. We have day parties. Like, I can go out on a Saturday and be home by 6 o'clock. Done. Do you hear me? And done.
Yes.
Now little teeny boppers outside. Y'all got Saturday night, baby. We got the day parties. We do.
Yeah. Day parties is huge in the South. Sunday fun day for real.
Yeah, brunch. It's always something. The D9 games, the Greek communities here, the different picnics. I mean, it's so rich. The African American Museum is here, and it's free to even go to, right? There are so many different like arts for the kids, whether it's dance, cheer, football, track, basketball, softball. I mean, there is so much access, and the biggest thing for me is that when I go, I'm not the minority.
Yes,
Let me
makes
tell
a
you what
difference.
the downside to that is. When you're around everybody that act like you, think like you, and do like you, then they match your ignorant. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we just so it's like you get stereotyped up there because you can get ignorant, but the principal gonna match your ignorant too. So what's she from the South Side too? So what is it really talking about?
Literally. Oh yes, that's a fact for real.
But
like
I
go out to the bar. Like I had that. Yeah.
So we've talked about the positive part of the move and the culture. Is there any downsides or negatives outside of the expenses to get there? Have y'all encountered anything that you like? Damn, this ain't kind of what I was hoping for or thinking.
I think for me, I'll say the only negative would be traffic. Traffic to a degree, and then being in a small space like Madison where everybody like 15 minutes away no matter which direction you going to, 30 minutes tops, and I mean that's a Wisconsin Dells drive. You miss your family, right? You do miss your your community and stuff like that. And so it's very important that if you do leave to build where you are, the things that are important to you. So that you have access, so you don't get as homesick, because you're gonna get a little homesick, and that's gonna be okay. And it's okay to go and visit and then leave again, like 3 days, not like forever. But y'all go look at your little weekend getaway, and do what you got to do. The first couple years, I had a lot of stuff still on my calendar in Madison, so I was home. Like every day, like, did you really move? Yeah, I did, but I still had a lot of work that I was doing in the city during that time. But it is nothing just to be intentional about it. Be intentional about the process. But the negatives, yeah, I'll just say I miss my people, the things I can't get to, but I definitely be popping up. I definitely
Yeah.
be popping up, to show up for my people because I love them, and that's just part of the process. And they didn't choose to make me move, you know what I'm saying? So I just do it, I do what I can for
Shout,
me to make sure that I'm safe. But
shout
yeah.
out to Rob tuning in on Instagram. He said Texans can't drive.
Okay.
They can't drive down here for real.
Yeah, they
Yep.
they can't drive. I said I wanted to be a petty officer. That's my new thing. And somebody gonna send me to the academy where I just pull people over for doing dumb stuff. Like, why you in this right hand lane at 7 o'clock in the morning when people need to go to work and you going straight? To me, that's a ticket because you're
But
not
Sugar,
doing
I
right.
also, just the way you were talking about, missing your community. You don't necessarily miss Madison, but you miss the community,
Oh
like,
yeah, just the
and
community.
how,
Yep.
I've talked about in many podcasts about just how the South Side was a different community. I don't care what city you've ever been in or whatever. The South Side that we grew up in was something different. Brian, you were on the South
Yep.
Side on Fisher Street
Yeah.
as well, and I don't know if people really understand like what that was and what that was like back in the day.
It,
Okay.
And
it,
so like I
So
understand this in the
one,
community.
I want to touch on that, but I also want to answer your first question about like things that were hard to move. Now, I don't know when it comes to Southside. I don't know if that's just because things have changed so much, so communities are dying. Because growing up on the South Side, everybody was outside, active, interactive. It wasn't sitting behind a screen. So I don't know if that translated with some of that. But what I will say, and Nami kind of touched on this a second ago, it was a culture shock for me. And when I say that, it was more of a learning curve about things, and a little tied into everything she said. Like when I was 18 and 19, I first came down to North Carolina. I was introduced to Black Republicans. Now this shit threw me off because growing up in the projects, getting in Madison, not really having much and stuff, and coming around these black people that had shit, and was it really like, I don't want the government in my pockets. We married here. We take care of our own. We help each other out. We're not relying on the government in no type of way. Threw me off. It was completely something I was not ready to deal for, and I didn't understand it when I was younger. I couldn't understand it when I was younger because I had been taught so much that, you know, you can get a welfare check and you can get support from the government, and that's the way if you ever have to fall back, that's what you fall back on. It's not fall back on your own self. And so me, when I came and I met around people who didn't believe in all that shit and was like, look, nobody's gonna control me, nobody's gonna be in my pockets, nobody's gonna do all this, that threw me off. That was like, man, I don't know how to take this. But as I got older and I started establishing myself, and I started really seeing like how Madison pushed you in these systems that, like you said, like they were saying, it makes you comfortable, makes you feel like, I got something to fall back on, makes you do these things. You start to understand how, well, we do need government support and government issues. But then when I got older, I started realizing like these dudes been giving us this support and doing this for us for 70 years, and everything for us has gotten worse. This shit's not benefiting us. I started understanding what these people when I was younger started talking about. But when I was younger, that was the hardest thing I think I was dealing with. Like, I've always missed my family, but I've been traveling since I was young. But when I was down here the first time, I actually went back home. That was when I went back home and transferred to a new school because I couldn't actually deal with the way people's mentality was. Like, it was a much more community based, like, we'll help you out and we'll do this, but you don't need to go here and get help and stuff like that. It was weird to me. I was like, these people uppity. I don't know how to deal with them. Everybody come from like a rich background, and I wasn't used to seeing rich black people. Like, that was weird as hell to me. And I was like, y'all some uppity ass, stuck up ass people. So I couldn't deal with it. But as I got older, a lot of things that they was doing, a lot of things they was establishing, and the traditionalism that they was carrying on really started to play out. It really started to make a big difference for me. And I was like, Maybe I was looking at the situation wrong. Maybe I really was looking at it like I was dealing with stuff in myself that I never experienced before. And so I was really stuck in a loop of they can't be doing things that are right. But then you look at it and you're like, man, this dude house is like 5,000 square feet. This dude live on 10 acres of land. He got gate and guards and stuff outside. And he got, you walk in through his kitchen bigger than any house I ever really lived in at the time. So stuff like that, I couldn't process it. It was hitting me in a way I didn't know how to deal with. And so that made it real tough for me to be like, okay,
Hmm.
this
I think
actually makes sense.
Dami touched on a little earlier about just imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah, absolutely.
and shout out to moms. She tapped in. She said, "Leave and come back. You have a different perspective of Madison," and I completely agree. I left and
Yes.
came back, and my eyes were open to everything that I had seen or experienced, and it makes you change the thought process you have about it.
It really does. It you start trying to explain it to people who live in it and you seem like an asshole. Because they don't understand what you talk about. You're like, look, I'm not trying to be mean, but the stuff you're saying and doing is not gonna get you to where you want to get to. Like there's just you in this system that you ain't breaking out of. And I felt that since I was like probably about like I would say about 25 is when I really, really started. About 27 because I moved back to Madison. In that was when I really, really kind of started seeing it like for what it really was. I was like, this is crazy. Like this don't make sense. Like, but people and so it led me to do a bunch of research about the Midwest and try to figure out what the hell was going on. That's how I started figuring out really how the amount of wealth that people had from black and whites was kept steadily increasing. How they were continually just locking us up and nobody's really paying attention what's happening. How long has this wealth gap existed? How what type of racial issues that go on there that I was not aware of. And I did a lot of research into that to kind of figure out like, holy shit, the most racist places in the country is in the Midwest. like, it's like this is crazy. Like you got Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, in Michigan, Illinois, and then Indiana. Then like the order of some of the top racist places in the country. We would never know it if you live there. You would never get that perspective. You would never be like, yeah, nah, it's pretty cool to live here. It's nice to live here. But then when you look at it from the outside and you start coming back and you like, well, if it's so bad in the South, why are they doing better than you doing in the North? What's going on with that? But then you get down here and you start seeing like in my where I live at, it ain't nothing but black businesses. Like the whole area is black businesses, and it's like it's something I never really was used to. I was like, this is crazy. So it is a lot of differences that you start to pick up on and learn, and when you get back home, you see that it don't work like that.
I agree. I want to piggyback off of that if I can. So, um, when you were talking about, I think that moving, there was this change inside of you where you had to basically learn that the ways that you had been brought up, the things that you were taught, the way that you thought, the way that you went about life was just different. Um, I agree. I think that's the hardest thing that I have had to deal with moving. There's some other things too that I'm gonna just kind of throw in there, but that's I think the biggest thing for me was just my attitude. I didn't realize how poorly I had been raised, I guess, within the community until I left. And I think what that means is being in Madison. I'm mixed. I grew up on the South Side as well. I think my entire childhood and just being a teenager, there was this constant space where I was tested, like my blackness was tested. Like, are you black enough? Oh, people jumping on me, people wanting to fight me. So it was this constant space that I felt like I lived in all the time in Madison, where I'm always having to defend myself and be tough. Like I have to be tough, and that's something that you talked about earlier, BK. There's this like I have to show my blackness constantly.
Hmm.
When I walk outside, when I go to the store, if somebody says something to me, I automatically got to argue with you and respond. And I got stuff to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of times the people that I'm dealing with don't have as much to lose as I do. I have children, I have a future, I have good career.
Did we lose her?
Maybe.
Hey, well, why is she out? I seen the question in here. Oh,
Okay,
there she
can
go.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you back.
Oh, I don't know what just happened.
You don't know where non-biopic people stay in here. I don't know, but real quick, while she rejoining, there was a question. There was a comment in the chat about like one of the
This one.
biggest contributors. There you go, right there to the wealth gap was in World War II. Uh, yeah. However, it's a difference in a separation of wealth in Wisconsin and other places in the Midwest than it is in other places. And there's a reason for that. Part of the reason is if you look at the surrounding states, they're much poorer than what Wisconsin is in other places. So when people move from cities or move from places like, take, for example, you live in Gary, you could be making $10 an hour. You can be making $8 an hour as a CNA in Gary. You move up to Wisconsin, that jumped to 15. That gives you a whole 15, 20. That gives you a whole different mentality on the way you live it, and then you may get comfortable there because you've been living with so much less your whole life, plus all the support you get. So now you in a system where you thinking like, hey, life is getting better. However, Wisconsin's one of the most educated places in the country. So everybody getting degrees, everybody advancing. If you get stuck in that system, they making money while you not. And that's one of the reasons that contribute to Wisconsin having one of the largest growth is by a big city with a bunch of smaller cities near it. And the growth and the wealth income separates greatly over time. So that's why it's been that way since the 70s, because that's what's been happening as people start migrating out of Chicago and all these other smaller, terrible areas to go there because people don't actually advance the same way people born there advance. But I'm sorry, Diamond, go ahead. As
Oh,
you
sorry,
said.
y'all. I had got a phone call, and for some reason, I couldn't hear anybody, so I had just exited and came back. But yeah, basically, all I was saying was, I had to learn how to change the things that I let get a rise out of me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize how angry of a person I was until I left because I felt like I was always constantly on edge, always in drama. There was always something going on there for me because I constantly lived in a space where I felt like I always had to prove myself. I think that moving out of state, I was able to, number one, I think just relax. I was able to be myself. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any, ties to anything that was going on. Like I was just able to just really hone in on who I am outside of that. Um and then really just get to know myself. I was able to build relationships with people based on liked interest. So it wasn't these relationships that I had formed because we've known each other since we were 8 years old and we went to the same schools and we did this and we did that, or I was able to meet people based on who I am, genuinely, which was really dope. But yeah, there
And
was a
who you are and who
changing,
you are today, not who you
not
were.
who I was
Right.
back then, exactly. And so I will say that I'm still living in that space, and it is still hard for me to make those changes within myself. I am at peace a lot more now, I think, and I don't let things piss me off quickly like I used to. And I noticed that when I do go home, there's a lot of situations or things that I feel like are linked to some trauma that I have that will take me back to that space. So like learning how to separate myself from that and be like, yo, like this way of life and like constantly getting upset and always, going there. I don't have to respond. Like somebody could say something crazy to me and I don't have to respond. I'm an adult. I got a professional career, you know what I'm saying? Like there are things that I have, and just because this is the way that I was raised and this is the environment I was raised in, it doesn't matter. I don't have to prove myself. I'm not about to pull up on you and fight you. Like I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do these things. I'm grown. And so like having to like I really had to remove myself, I feel like, to like teach myself that. And that was a big turning point for me just in my life in general since I've been here. But the other thing that I was going to say is knowing I'm a single mom. So being away from my village and my support system and my family, that has been extremely hard. Like wanting to go do something and not being able to because usually I can call my mom and be like, "Hey mom, can you watch the kids real quick so I can go run and do this?" I don't have that same support. You do miss your family, just in general without, needing someone to watch your children. I miss being able to
link up with my cousins if somebody's having a party, or like do something. Like I can't do that here all the time. So like Sugar said, it's really important to build foundations wherever you decide to move, build villages there, build roots, like plant yourself, and just find a community that's going to support you, and that you can lean on,
Yeah.
because you do miss that when you move away.
Miss
Real
Carter,
quick,
you are absolutely right. It is
some
a
she
vicious
said.
cycle.
Well, yeah, that's crazy. Something she just said that's real, and I've been telling kids this for years in Wisconsin. The hardest thing that you go have to do in Wisconsin, whether you black, a boy, or you black, a woman, color, whatever you is us knowing that it's okay to be different and finding a support system that's going to accept you to be different. And I don't mean different like weird. I mean like if you want to be a nerd and you like this what I love doing, you will not find the support from your community out there but that you need to be that person. And nerds rule the world. Like you say you won't. The richest people in the world are nerds. So if that's you as a black person, you're gonna have a hard time finding friends. You have a hard time associating with people. People go judge you because you don't act the way they expect you to act. And then you go always be fighting. You go always be in situations. People go look at you like you some type of lame because you don't do what they do. And that you have to separate yourself on from because you'll find yourself getting in trouble and issues trying to prove, oh yeah, I'm black as you is and this, when in reality you don't even really learn what you don't learn that people telling you black because of this until you get older and like that's just not what black people do. That's just like some hick Billy Hill shit bullshit. Like it's not real. Like that's not what it means to be black. And that's what you find is a lot of people are determining what it is to be black in that area. So you end up getting into conflicts. You end up trying to prove yourself because you different than other people. So that's like one of the hardest things I think people do face in that area of the country versus going to other areas of the country where, like she said, they look like you. They doing similar
There's more
things as you.
examples. There's more examples. There's just more examples because of, obviously, there's the racial disparities, I think, in Wisconsin and just in Madison. So there's not a space for black businesses to thrive because when there's a black business, it gets shut down. So there's no example of a proper black business, or, like how Sugar said, we go to a wine bar in Dallas and it's black owned and that there's somebody that looks like you. So we can act a fool all together and everybody's acting the same. So it doesn't give you this everybody being rowdy. It's just us being in camaraderie with one another. You know what I'm saying? And so there's just no examples. And I think that is basically the basis of that. There's just not a lot of examples.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Black
I had that
professionalism don't resist in a man like that out there. We all leave. I'll tell you that off the bat. Most black men leave Madison if they went to school, they got their stuff together, and they ain't got a girl and get married, they got kids, they out. All of them out. Like, I mean, think about it. How many people you invited on this list as black professional men that don't live in Madison no more? They they all leave.
No, that's facts. That's true. And I literally was having a conversation with my youngest last night just about how I had to talk with her and instill in her, like, it's okay to not fit into the crowd. If you like something, that's okay. Be comfortable with what you like and moving how you move and doing what you enjoy doing. You don't have to follow that crowd.
Yep.
And that's something that she's carried with her until her teenage years now in high school. So no, it's definitely something to be said about that and making sure that we everybody's comfortable with it. You got to figure out who you are. That self-awareness, I feel, is one of the biggest factors in a lot of things that we do when we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and if anybody has questions for these individuals about leaving and moving, please feel free to post it in the chat. We'll ask. And so the next question I just kind of want to touch on with y'all is like, what advice would you give to somebody that would be interested or who's thinking about moving?
Go.
Do it.
They said go quick.
Just
No,
do it.
honestly, to
Well, because
elaborate,
here's the thing.
like I think I agree. Go.
You don't have to. They make it too much. Like, let me tell you something. You're going to be ever changing, ever evolving, ever growing. So there is no
Right.
set, right thing that you just have to have in place. Just go.
Mm-hmm.
Like get your if you a worker, you can transfer your job. Just go, right? Because but if you have this lazy mentality where you expecting somebody to take care, you trying to fall back on somebody's government, something, don't go because it ain't
Mm-hmm.
out here.
Yeah,
That ain't how it works.
and she
So
100% right.
go and just do it. All the things that you keep telling yourself when you gonna do it, when you gonna do, just go and put it out
Like if
there
I
and
say
just do it.
more
I
money,
never
no, just go.
I never had to, when I left Atlanta and moved back to Wisconsin, the relationship I had built with my management company, she said, baby, just go. She required me to clean the unit. She get your stuff and go to school and be great. Cause why are you here? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like then when it was time for me to leave Madison and come here, there was
We keep losing people.
Phone calls.
Oh, the calls.
Sugar,
You
we can't
muted.
hear you. You might gotta leave and come back because of your phone call.
The phone calls. That's what happened to
No,
me.
no, but you know, she telling the truth. Like, and one thing you need to keep in mind when you go somewhere, have you a plan? Know the reason you leaving. Stick to that. Go there and do what you planning on doing, because you will. If you going somewhere and pursuing an opportunity to pursue what you want, you got a better chance of getting it instead of just going like, I'm gonna do whatever. Like, no, I'm going here because this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I see a comment. You can leave,
No,
but
no,
you
it's a
can't.
lot of people that's making comments like Antoine Jackson. He says
I
you can
I
leave, but you can't
but
leave your problems, so you have to get your shit together.
I disagree.
Uh,
I disagree.
Dante on
I
Instagram
disagree with
said,
that too.
And the reason why I disagree with that is look, you cannot thrive in the same environment that is keeping you down. So if
Yep.
you have problems, like even if you got shit going on, you know what I'm saying? You got drama, you got this, go first and then sort that shit out. Give
Yep.
yourself a clear space to think in a clear environment, in a clean space, and then figure that shit out. Like shit within yourself. I don't know if he means like physical shit, like if you got core shit going on,
Right. Right.
what that looks like. But if you have a space where in a window where you can go, do that and then worry about whatever it is that you need to be fixing because
Yep.
that's going to happen, but you're more prone to fix it if you're in a clean environment.
"No,
I agree.
that makes sense." And then Dante Brown on Instagram said, "Just get out of there. Don't let nothing hold you back." He's down in Dallas too. My boy Rob on Instagram, he said, "I told you I was leaving, and I left, and that's facts." He definitely
Yeah.
told me, "Hey, I'm getting up out of here." A couple months later, he was gone.
Look, I'm gonna tell you how I got out of Madison permanently. But they right. Go, like, get it, go, and just because you got stuff going on, don't mean you can't solve. You in a separate situation is clean. You got to solve. You go have to solve as you want to grow and you go somewhere new. So I don't agree with that either. But like how I left Madison, man, I had a dude. One of my guys asked me to move to California. He was in New York. He's like, "Hey, I'm driving across the country. You want to go to California with me?" And I was like, "No, but if you get here by tomorrow, I'll pack all my shit and move and drive with you across the country to Denver." Next, he got there the next day. I had everything packed and left. That's like you got to go. When it's time to go, it's time to go.
And
So
you know,
here's the flip side of that. And I don't know if I missed anything. I know I got cut off, but I left with 3 kids my second time
Mm.
by myself. So it wasn't a just it was still a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was a different kind of I had to have a different setup plan go because now I got 3 little people looking
Right.
at me, right? And
You
at the
had to
time,
strategically plan.
Yeah.
yeah, so at the time that was a 3-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 10-year-old, and then a 16-year-old, right? So that's 3 different stages. I got preschool, middle school, and high school. And here I am getting ready to take them from everything that they know and love, right? As a newly divorced mom, right? Because it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear the excuses about I just gotta, you just ain't going nowhere. But like if you really like, just go. Because that's what I'm gonna tell you.
And
Just
listen,
go.
that is the
Just
reason I wanted to do this podcast because Sugar, you hit it on the head. People say I'm going, I'm going, I'm going.
yeah,
Ain't went
just
nowhere
go. I don't
in
even
12
entertain
years
the
of staying.
conversation. I'll be like, okay. Well, let me know when you
So
get there because I'm here. You know, it's easy.
we got another
It's the
comment.
same
She
thing.
said, "How have y'all been able to build a brand new support system? Friends, where you worry of new people?"
I will
I'm gonna
say for
tell
me,
y'all
one of the
something.
biggest things for me as a woman with kids was the fact that I'm a Delta, right? I
That helps.
called on my girl so quick, you know what I'm saying, and
Li-
began that process. But it's also, you can find people that you know, right?
I was just
Somebody
gonna
knows
say that.
somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Look,
So
Wisconsin people everywhere.
yep, everywhere. There are alumni groups, even if you know, like I'm in a group that's Chicagoans in Dallas, right?
Mhm.
Groups.
DFW to MKE, like all these different groups that I have like access to, based off where my roots lie, right?
Facebook,
So,
social media.
Mhm.
so
Yep.
right. So I'm in groups with Black women. Um,
That too.
I'm in workout groups. There's so much. There's no excuse to not go
Yep. You
anywhere.
go
There's
find people.
no excuse
Everywhere.
not to
It's
go.
that hard. You're gonna meet so many new people, so many people that are in different walks of life. Some people that are in the same walks of life as you. Like it, I don't think I was weary because I moved with an open mind. Like I moved
Hmm.
with an open mind that I'm moving to become the best version of myself and whatever that looks like. I mean, to be really transparent, I've lost friends since I've left. Like there are people that I've disconnected with um in Wisconsin, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't for any other reason more than we just became different people. You know, so like you end up like I said before, I started to connect with people that was based on like interest. Those relationships were built on that. So it was easier to maintain because they're meeting me in the space that I am in my life now. So it's not
Hmm.
hard, especially if you go in with an open mind and you know where you are in your journey. It's easy to meet new people that are influence.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that your interests, if you're active doing things, what you go find is that like there are nice people everywhere, there are good people everywhere. People will gravitate to you if you're a good person. Like in the things that you find interest in, you're gonna find other people that got interest in that too. And it ain't that hard to talk to people. So, you go somewhere, you like doing something, somebody else like doing that too. It's easy to find people that you can relate to who, you know, probably just want to hang out. As older you get, I think it's harder to make friends. You're a little more leery about people. You definitely are a little more cautious, but I mean, if you got a good head on your shoulders, you ain't just like
Got
meeting a
good
bunch of bums.
discernment. You gotta have discernment. You grown at this big
Right.
age. You gotta have good discernment.
Exactly. You've been living a while on this earth. You know how things work. So you could meet other people. And like she said, like if you're in a fraternity, you hoop, you do things, you're going to meet people who do those things too. You go meet people who got similar interests. I'm not saying go to the club and meet somebody and hang out, but if you go do something that you find interesting in, you'll find somebody else with similar interests in that same thing that you can hang out with. And then you work, you meet people, they tell you
Mhm.
places to go check out and stuff like that. Like
I
you
hope
start
I
meeting
hope you
people.
work.
Hope so. You shouldn't be moving if you ain't working.
The other
Facts.
thing is too, when you have children and you move, it is for me, because I'm a very particular kind of parent, it is difficult to build that kind of village, right?
Hmm.
That you entrust your children to, being 1,000 miles away. So this burden of, being single, right? This single parent is very real. And it's not that there are not other single parents around, right? It just
Hmm.
depends on the kind of parent that you are. Like I haven't been my kid can go, they nice, like they nice kids and stuff like that, but they can't come over.
Yeah,
Um,
like that
so
too.
so we can come together and they can have a play date and they can do whatever. Um, but so you don't have that. You don't have that, and that takes a while to build. But that
Hmm.
comes from, really getting to know somebody and committing to, that process and learning the ins and outs. Like I pay attention to, the moms if they're single, if they have new boyfriends every other week. I have
Hmm.
daughters, and so it's for me, it's been a lot in that regard that will make it hard. But there are activity centers, there are daycares, there are, so just my thing is when it comes to your kids, you may have to invest a little more resource in paid child care, and stuff like that. You'll find your squad first before you necessarily find that group you can put in, you know what I'm saying, in with your kids. But I will say for me, I leaned on the shield. So it was, I had a different process. So by all means, get into organizations and sisterhoods or brotherhoods and things like that, where you can easily identify a community or a group of like-minded individuals, right? When
Mm-hmm.
I think about my sorority sisters, I understand that we had to go through a certain process to get to where we were, right? There were certain things that made up a characteristic of this. So to me, you already have that standard. If you have earned this right, then you already come in the door with a certain, you know what I'm saying,
Yep.
level of respect and a time to be like, so then the rest of that stuff you build personally as time goes on. But I will say that part, for me, it was easy to find me community, but for my kids, it was harder for me to identify, or it took longer for me to identify who those people
Mm-hmm.
would be. I have them now, but it
Mhm.
still was a process.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is a process. But
Yeah.
and I think too, you find one thing I know that I found was uh people has a different type of respect. Like, okay, like I got PhD in Madison. It's not really respected. Would you like, like, oh, I'm a doctor in business and information systems. That's not really respected everywhere you go because people know you. They like, oh, well, you grew up that you're the same person you was from before. So I would say that that's one of the things that I've always found. Like when you go other places, people are like, oh, you specialize in this. Well, we should talk because I'm looking to do business in this subject. That's something I think you find more too, is that people actually are interested in what you done
Network.
do and how you could, yeah, how you could benefit each other. I find that is something that really has happened in other places in the country. But I do have there is a question on here. Melvin Graham Jackson asks, or there's not this one, the first one he asked, yeah, where to go and go where? Where would you say is better? I'm gonna tell you, outside of those 6 states I named, everywhere. Everywhere. Seriously.
and
Yeah.
and for honestly, that question is for everybody individual personally. For me, I love Dallas, and I would go to Dallas in a heartbeat. I
You
wasn't a
can't go
fan of
wrong with
Houston.
Dallas.
I
No.
wasn't a fan of
No,
Houston.
Yeah, I was
definitely
Houston was
not a
just too
fan of
big for
Houston.
me, too
oh,
much.
visit.
But
Okay.
I want to check
Oh,
out Charlotte. I enjoy like some other cities, and there's some that just not for me. So you gotta go
yeah.
and check those places out to figure out
Madison
what's
is
just
not
for
a
you,
real
what's your
place.
It's the place. It's the sunken.
That's
But
crazy.
let me tell
It's
you
the
why I
sunken
live in
place.
Clive
You're
been
right.
saying
I
this.
say that all the
Clive been
time.
saying
It's
this
the
for
sunken
years that
place.
it's not a real place.
it seemed like the
It's not
sunken
fun.
place for real. But but I'm gonna tell you how I figured out ended up in Charlotte too was so like I do like Dallas. It's hot as hell. I almost passed out at the theme park there. Uh, Houston. Okay, so I'll do Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston because those places people seem to have been on here. So Dallas, very very hot, but the cost of living in Dallas is getting up there. So I was like,
It is.
I
do
was
I really want to live way outside the city? Do I want to live in Dallas? So that was one thing that kind of deterred me from Dallas, even though I think that Dallas is a good area to grow and there's a lot of black people there and it's a pretty good community. Houston is a little ghetto. It's nah, for real. It is. It's like a ghetto Atlanta. It's a little it's it's a black city. It's hot as hell, but it's a little ghetto. Like there's some good places to go, but it's also got hey, it's got a little hood side. It's not as dangerous as like Chicago or something. It's up there, but it ain't that bad. But it's a little ghetto. And so I didn't want to go to Houston because of that. Now, Atlanta. Atlanta, I didn't go to Atlanta because I like my relationship. I don't know if y'all ever been to. Look, I'm
not
being serious. I don't know if you've been
your
to Atlanta, but women are very aggressive in Atlanta. The guys do not respect their relationships. Guys kind of sleep with everybody, guys and girls. They don't respect relationships. I'm being I'm being dead, man. I'm being dead serious. Like the guys will hit on you and tell you straight up they got a wife. They don't care. The women will hit on you, and if you got a wife, they don't care. I feel like it's something I don't know what's going on. Like there's too many people down there not dating the right people. But if you got your shit together and you in one of them, you in Atlanta, yeah, somebody gonna be throwing it at you. So I just want that wasn't for me. I respect my relationship and I'm happy to be with who I'm with. So I was not trying to get into that lifestyle. But those three places is why I didn't choose to live in those places. Now that's like and that's what I'm saying. Like, it is something that you got to find out what's gonna work for you as well. But
Yeah.
and so you should visit these places before you go there. But I would say those are 3 reasons why I don't live in those places, because I do like Dallas though. But at the same time, y'all still get snow. So
We get a little 72-hour, 3-week vacation, baby. That's it, honey. That's it. And
I
listen,
feel you. It is only for like a half a month, but
And I
yeah, the whole city shut down.
yeah, they
care.
do. That's okay for me.
We don't
Yeah.
For
know.
me, because let them go and play in the little snow. We not going. We gonna let y'all have it, because y'all out
Okay.
there don't have a clue with these ball tires what y'all got going on. So when I know
Everybody got ball tires in the South. It's a weird thing. They
right,
for real, they be sliding all over the road everywhere out here. It is wild.
when it
So soon as
rains,
snow hit, city shut down.
but
That's
when it
why
rains, I don't want to go outside in the rain either, because that's when it really gets slick.
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it's like they got bald streets out here, like almost at an arch. So you going in the rain, man.
that
Like, no, I done seen some of the worst drivers in the world in the South. Just
I
saying,
did that when
terrible.
oh, like some of the things that like that I was like, this is what's getting ready to happen. Project like, and then I was driving home late from I was out, and I'm like, this car is doing something real weird, so I slowed all the way down. That car had done went across the interstate. Where is you going in this rain at 3 o'clock in the morning, honey? Um, I did want to circle back to the nightlife.
Mm.
And in Madison, I was just home, right? Over the weekend. Want nothing to do. Nothing to do.
oh,
I said, where am I going back? And that's why when I come, I'll be in and out. Listen, I have enough time for whatever I'm coming there for, and enough time after to get up out of there, because ain't nothing to do. Yeah, I be wanting to see y'all. Y'all come to Dallas and see me. Come hang out. Where's something
Hmm.
I gotta play for every day of the week in Dallas. Okay?
Yes.
Day of the week I gotta play.
Yes.
I ain't gonna do that. Nothing. I just be like, and then I'm like, dang. Well, if I had came a day earlier, I could have just saw the whole Black community at 3 events on Saturday, because y'all all
Yep.
have events at the same time. But I missed about one day. Oh well.
Yeah. You come in the wrong day, you miss everything.
Yes, I didn't
yeah.
know wrong day for me.
Hey, I'm in and out. I don't even know. Look, I told my mom I ain't gonna hold y'all. I said last time might have been my last time coming back, guys. After I came back for what? Yeah, yeah, that was it for me. I think literally nothing. Like I went out to my old job. I don't know if y'all know. I used to bartend. I used to work at J Monkey and the Time McCoy, and literally that's the only place I go when I come home, because there's nothing to, literally nothing. So it's terrible.
Yeah.
Clive, no, seriously, and because we're so bored, we find ourselves in bad situations. An ideal mind is idle time is a devil's playground here for real. No,
Yeah.
that's true. I've been saying that for years. That's
There's
why I
nothing
make
to
sure
do
when I go
there.
myself.
Well, here's the
So
thing. Madison it's got a little bit of a crime issue with black establishments. So as soon as you open a black establishment,
They
some
harass.
go, yeah, some go happen. It's gonna get shut down. The
That's
you're gonna get
mentality is bad.
like
harassed. You're
I
gonna
think
get harassed, and something gonna happen, and it's gonna be shut down.
Yep.
it's a cycle though. It's a cycle. It's I think what ends up happening is the business gets harassed. I think that because there's nothing to, like Brian just said, everybody ends up in all these different bullshit ass situations. It's a lot of drama. So then when everybody finally does get an opportunity to go out, all these people that then ended up in all this shit when they ain't have nothing to do are finally seeing each other, and then
At the
they
same
have
place.
Now,
after days,
now they gotta make good. Now they gotta make good on them
no,
words
Mhm.
they was sending.
exactly.
Now you
And,
gotta now you gotta cash the check.
and
Yeah,
then it's a
because you
cycle.
in there with the rah-rah. Now you gotta cash the check. So I'd be like, let me make this make sense. You literally just came out here to fight your neighbor. Like y'all couldn't just settle that before I paid my $20 to get in here. Like no, for real. Like
Y'all couldn't just stop at the
And,
that's your
and everybody
neighbor.
know everybody know everybody, know where they be at, know their address, know their mama, know their cousin. Like y'all had to wait till you came here to throw up.
Of business or to somebody's event or party. I remember back in the day when Romeo was throwing them parties, I used to be like, bro, please don't come in here with drama. And like,
But you know what though? I think that it's also railroaded, because I will say this, as a person who worked in the Madison bar industry, they railroad those places. So like the music, right?
Yep.
Y'all, that in majority of the bars in Madison, no Black music is allowed on the jukebox. They deliberately filter it out. And that was an issue that I had being a bartender at some establishments, where they literally, you could try to search like Tupac on the jukebox and it was blocked. Number two, the liquor. In all of the different bars and establishments, they take out the liquor that they think that is predominantly drunken by Black people. And so what
Hennessy.
ends up happening
Yep.
is, when a Black club opens, they cater to Black people. They offer all of the stuff that these other bars aren't offering. So then that's where everybody goes. And then that's when it causes a problem. And then that's when that gives them an excuse to shut the shit down. And
Mm-hmm.
cycle.
Oh,
And
Clyde talking on something else.
No, right. I will say that. But us as our own selves, right? We got to practice
You got to
self-control,
notice that and be cognizant.
right?
So that
Practice
you 100% right.
today, they can't shut us down if we ain't in there acting a fool. The
But-
minute y'all get something, y'all shit on it, and so then it's back out the door because you
But-
made a choice.
Yeah.
But
And
Dami touched on it a little bit ago, because she was saying it's the culture. That is the culture there. That somebody go hate, somebody go get mad. It's a whole bunch of people getting together, ain't seeing each other. That's part of the culture, and that's something you got to learn. Like when you go other places, like
You learn
nah,
etiquette.
it's not really like
You
that.
learn etiquette.
you learn etiquette.
Yeah.
Listen,
Etiquette. We
the
go,
re-
we
so-
parking lot pimp. We go home, or
Yep.
we get breakfast, or we going
Yep.
to after hours. But we going home so we can get up to it
So-
again.
So remember, I was the first one that brought the day parties here, and it's because I went away and saw it in another city, and I was like, yo, this is dope. I got to bring it back to Madison since nobody's doing it. But the thing was, you throw a party in the daytime, and we know the culture of Madison, they're going to get together. It's going to be some rah-rah and everything getting shut down. Except for during the day, everybody can see you. You done
Mhm.
got dressed up and everybody can see you. You get it. You do something wild, stupid here, you going to jail.
Mhm. That is true. That is a benefit of having day parties, is that
'Cause
a lot of people
honestly,
ain't gonna come out.
all the events that we've had in Madison, I don't know if, and a bunch of other people have done day parties since. I can't remember any issues at day parties,
Right.
even here.
But
But
everybody
also
can't do
going
stuff
out-
during the day.
Mature individuals are coming out in the daytime.
Yes.
Right.
You know
We
what I'm
can
saying?
see
For the
you.
most part- Right, but for the most part, it's also the crowd who coming out in the middle of the day.
Right.
And
In the daytime, right?
Madison needs a good immersion of culture. Like
Mhm.
I'm talking a culture tour where it's so Black for like a week that y'all don't even know what to do with yourselves, where y'all get taught how to act. You know
Mhm.
how you go and go back home. This is how you come to a club and have a good time, because you're gonna sing the lyrics of the song, right? And you could be singing in your own little song. Somebody think you pointing at them, and so now they taking the person. Now they want to. You was talking to me. I was singing the lyrics. I was just.
Yeah.
In my
Hey, hey,
I agree with you, but then I also disagree with you. I agree with you about racism. The establishments are built for that purpose. I do agree with you on the space of it happens in all Black cities. It
yeah,
does
that's what I was about to say.
there. It does happen here and there. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely heard of in Cincinnati they've shot or something happened, but it doesn't happen as frequently.
Right.
Very far.
Dallas 7 years.
Go out all night long. I mean, all night. You could be out. I've been out till 5
Yeah.
o'clock. Running to the club, to the hookah bar. Everybody's chilling.
Yo, Houston the same way. Like you could be out all night. You could go. You ain't got police lined up outside every club in Houston. That's not everywhere.
Does play a factor in what's offered, you know what I'm saying? But there's also a different culture. And I don't know if you were on the live in the very beginning, Brian, or the podcast when we were talking about it. But I was speaking to how when I moved, I had imposter syndrome because there was a big culture shock in the Black people, what Sugar was saying, and just the way of life and like Black professionalism and the type of Black people in the culture that there is here versus there.
Yeah.
So like, that's where I was at. And I had to learn how to acclimate to feeling like I belonged here because I felt like an outsider out here.
Exactly.
How can I talk to these people? These people aren't fighting, like they're not into it. Ain't nobody mean hugging me. Somebody just came up and talked to me. Oh, they're mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
got excited
You
to
look cute. I like
Like-
your hair. Or you wearing them like They actually speak. They don't just be staring. So it's like, good
Yeah.
like,
Let me. I'm gonna tell you something too about what you was just saying, Dami, about the way I acted and the way I went about things. So so I got 5 degrees. I've been in my field about 15, 20 years now, and I own a couple companies. But when I met my wife would always tell me this. She's like, "Why do you act like that?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You act like you like this, like you with everybody else." She was like, "But with all your credentials, you really should act like you up here." And she was like, "You never actually carry yourself like the way you talk, the way you go about things. You don't act like that." And it really took me to be like, that was just part. And I would say it. That's part of how I was raised in the area I was raised. And she was like, "You got to make a choice. You can't be this and this at the same time. You got to pick which one you go about doing." And that's part of that, acclamation. Like, here I am, a black doctor. There's only 80,000 in the damn country as a black man, and I'm sitting here acting like I'm just from the hood. Like, you can't carry that same thing you talk to somewhere else. Like, I don't care, and I don't go around acting like I'm hood. I don't sag my pants and nothing like that. But my mentality is what she was talking about. She was like, "Your mentality is acting like you just everybody else," and that she's like, "But you need to start carrying yourself like you're a professional, like you've accomplished something in life, like you are about something." And so that was a huge adjustment for me. And as we got together, she was like, "You started to act more distinguished." And she would point it out, like certain things I would do that were a little different. And she was like, "It's not really that you hood, just almost act ghetto." So that
Yeah,
was something I had to learn.
hoodness is not a black trait, and being polished and being articulate, that's not a white trait. That's not,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's just you learn that in different spaces, you're able to walk into different rooms, you're able to experience a different way of life. If you have to reacclimate yourself. You have to
Yes.
understand that it's okay. Like, it's okay to have somebody say something to you and you chill. I don't have to prove myself. I don't You looked at me crazy. Oh, okay, that's fine. I hope you have a better day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That also comes with a level of maturity.
Yeah. You know, Clyde, I got to tell you, as part of that I don't agree, and part of that I do. Like, I'm not saying your statement is wrong, but what I am saying is the separation of wealth professionals in Madison versus other people is great. So even if there are white people, and I've experienced a lot of these white people throughout my life in Wisconsin, that really do want to help the black community where they live at versus where we live at and how things interact, it is a hard bridge to it's hard to mend that bridge. Like, versus, like, you're right, down here, you could drive down the street, $200,000 house, boarded up house, $800,000 house. $200,000 house, $800,000 house. So it's like mixed into the communities. It's not segregated. So I do agree that Madison makes it hard to mend those bridges because of the fact that it's segregation. I mean, that like I said before, the city is separated by, it's even walls in some places that block out people, gated communities right next to a poor community. I remember when I was working in Madison, dude told me he lived in High Point. He was like, "Man, I hate Halloween because all these black people come into my neighborhood to get candy."
wow.
Like, but they live right across the street from you. That's what I mean. Like, that's the type of mentality that really sits deep in that part of the country. It's rough.
no, it's a fact. My mom did some research one time, and she said that it was for some type of for school for her paper, and it said that the highest percentage of black people that are in the Dane County Jail right now are black, but the highest percentage of crimes that are committed in Madison are downtown on campus by white males.
Yep, that is true.
Just to put
That's why it's a 12-to-1 separation.
it's not catered to us. So I just encourage you to get out. And that's my final statement.
Well, listen, we definitely didn't ran over on time. We already at a little over an hour and a half, so I'm gonna pause it there. We might end up needing to do a second episode of this because when we get rolling, we just get rolling. I'm gonna ask y'all to stay on for a minute, but I do want to thank the everybody that tuned in, chimed in with comments, interacted with us. We definitely appreciate you, and we'll definitely check you out next time we get on. Peace.
Bye.